In space, no one can hear you scream.
Hey watchers, today's movie is a groundbreaking masterpiece that blends horror and sci-fi, and it set the bar for this genre for decades to come.
Director Ridley Scott and the film's protagonist, Sigourney Weaver, hit this one out of the park. And H.R. Giger, the creator of the monster in this movie, did such a good job, he won an Oscar for the best effects/visual effects for his work.
Cryogenic nap time is over, folks, because it's time to head out of this world and explore the 1979 classic, Alien. Welcome to the Midnight Watch Podcast, the show where we discuss classic, cult, and modern classic movies.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Josh, and we try to review movies that are at least 10 years old and see what kind of impact they made or are still making on culture and the film industry. And fair warning, we're big on spoilers here.
We rate these movies in 4 categories. Number 1, the level of impact and success it had when it was released. Number 2, how relevant is it today? Number 3, our own personal enjoyment of the movie. And number 4, is it a midnight watch?
So Jeremy, what kind of otherworldly facts and trivia do you have for us?
Well, Josh, I'm glad you asked, because this movie, as you said earlier today, is freaking stacked with trivia. It's freaking crazy. So
we could do a 2-hour podcast on this easily.
Right. I was watching the movie and I was like, yeah, I got some stuff to say about it. And I was looking up the trivia and I was like, I may not have time to say anything about this movie.
Right.
So it's directed by Ridley Scott. The story is by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. I think I said that wrong. Shusett. And then the screenplay is by Dan O'Bannon. The score is by Jerry Goldsmith. The budget was $11 million, and the box office was $100 million. Let me phrase that. $190 million. That's crazy. This came out in 1979. Yeah. That's the same year as that other movie we reviewed, Phantasm. And then 2 years after the Star Wars movie. So that was pretty legit, dude. I didn't realize, but this movie was heavily inspired by Star Wars and like couple other movies too.
Right. 2001 Space Odyssey.
Yeah. And and of course the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Right.
Which is, it's funny to me that they would pick that, but I know that was such a impactful movie in the film industry at the time. And I get why they were inspired by it, but like I just wouldn't think about that movie personally when I see this one.
Wait, have you seen Texas Chainsaw yet?
Not all the way. I've only seen it in bits and pieces. Boom.
Well, that was good. Totally went over my head. I'm not a full dad yet, you know.
No, that's all right. You're almost there.
Well, the funny thing is, that's the movie we're going to be reviewing next week. So
I know.
We'll
what a coincidence.
I know, right? Totally didn't realize that until today. But all of our episodes connect in some way. The seven spaces of Kevin Bacon, or 6 spaces.
Right. Well, the way we were trying to do it would have been 6 degrees from The Matrix.
Right, but I think that joke died like 10 episodes ago.
I know.
Anyways. All right, so let's see here. It is starring Tom Skerritt, Sigourney Weaver, Veronica Cartwright, Harry Dean Stanton, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Yaphet Kotto. All right, well, let's hear about that synopsis before we jump in, because we got a lot of stuff. So go ahead and go for it.
I know, yeah. Let's get cracking on this. All right, the commercial space tug Nostromo is on a return trip back to Earth with a 7-member crew in stasis. Captain Dallas, Executive Officer Kane, Warrant Officer Ripley, Navigator Lambert, Science Officer Ash, and 2 engineers, Parker and Brett. Detecting a transmission, the crew's computer, Mother, awakens the crew. Company policy requires any potential distress signal to be investigated, so they land on the moon where the signal was coming from, sustaining damage from its atmosphere and rocky landscape. Parker and Brett repair the ship while Dallas, Kane, and Lambert head out to investigate. They discover the signal comes from a derelict alien ship and enter it, losing communication with the Nostromo. Ripley deciphers part of the transmission, determining it to be a warning, but cannot relay this information to those on the derelict ship. Meanwhile, Kane discovers a chamber containing hundreds of large egg-like objects. When he touches one, a creature springs out, breaks through his helmet, and attaches itself to his face. Dallas and Lambert carry the unconscious Kane back to the Nostromo. As acting senior officer, Ripley refuses to let them aboard, citing quarantine regulations, but Ash overrides her decision and lets them inside. Ash attempts to remove the creature from Kane's face, but stops when he discovers that its blood is an extremely corrosive acid. It later detaches on its own and is found dead. The ship is partly repaired and the crew lifts off. Kane awakens with some memory loss, but is otherwise unharmed. During a final crew meal before returning to stasis, he chokes and convulses. A small alien creature bursts from Kane's chest, killing him, and escapes into the ship. The crew attempts to locate it with tracking devices and capture or kill it with nets, electric prods, and flamethrowers. Brett follows the crew's cat, Jones, into a landing leg compartment where the now fully grown alien attacks Brett and disappears with his body. After a heated discussion, the crew decides the creature must be in the air ducts. Dallas enters the ducts, intending to force the alien into an airlock, but it ambushes and kills him. Lambert implores the others to abandon ship and escape in its small shuttle, but Ripley, now in command, explains it will not support 4 people and insists on continuing with the plan of fleshing out the alien. Now with access to Mother, Ripley discovers Ash has been secretly ordered by the company to bring the alien back, with the crew deemed expendable. She confronts Ash, who tries to choke her to death. Parker intervenes and clubs Ash, knocking his head loose and revealing him as an android. Ash's head is reactivated, and they learn he was assigned to ensure the creature's survival. He expresses admiration for the creature's psychology, unhindered by conscience or morality, and taunts them about their chances of survival. Ripley cuts off his power, as they leave, Parker incinerates him. The remaining crew decides to self-destruct the Nostromo and escape in the shuttle. Parker and Lambert are ambushed and killed by the creature while gathering supplies. Ripley initiates the self-destruct sequence, but finds the alien blocking her path to the shuttle. She retreats and attempts unsuccessfully to abort the self-destruct. With no further options, she makes her way to the shuttle and barely escapes as the Nostromo explodes. As Ripley prepares for stasis, she discovers that the alien is aboard, having wedged itself into a narrow space. She puts on a spacesuit and uses gas to flush the creature out. It approaches Ripley, but before it can attack, she opens an airlock door, almost blowing the creature into space. It manages to hang on by gripping the frame, but Ripley shoots it with a grappling hook. The gun catches as the airlock door closes, tethering the alien to the shuttle. It pulls itself into an engine exhaust, but Ripley fires the engines, blasting the creature away into the depths of space. After recording the final log entry, she places Jones the cat and herself into stasis for the trip home to Earth. And, yep, that's courtesy of Wikipedia.
Oh, so that actually, that was longer than expected. I explained the synopsis of the film to my wife the other night, and I was a lot shorter than that. I was just like, because there's actually not a lot of plot to this movie. But the thing that
it's pretty straightforward.
It's very straightforward, which is why it initially got some flack from some critics. They were saying that it was a gorilla in a haunted house, a set in space type of movie. Some people liked it. Roger Ebert, he liked it straight up, but Siskel did not like it. And so it was interesting because now it's heralded as like one of the best sci-fi movies ever made. And the thing that's amazing about this is Star Wars came out in 1977, which of course blew the doors off the sci-fi genre, because before that, I think they were trying to make serious sci-fi movies, but they just that Star Wars brought it to a whole different level. It actually brought like dirt and grime to it, made it more realistic. And it's just interesting how they come up with another landmark film in the sci-fi industry just 2 years behind Star Wars. Right.
Yeah, and kind of went a different direction than Star Wars, but with that same level and quality of realism.
Yeah,
and of course adding the horror element to it is amazing.
Yeah, I mean these guys aren't space marines like the second movie, or they're not heroes or anything. These are just space truckers. These are just guys that are blue collar workers. Yeah. And the thing I thought was cool is like most of the actors are like above 35 years old in this movie, and I thought that was
that was definitely one of the things that they kind of impressed on the critics, was that because normally any kind of adventure, thriller type movie would have had a younger cast,
Right.
And they kind of went against that because almost everybody, like you said, was over 40 except for Sigourney Weaver and what's her name? The other girl.
Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah, they were the youngest.
Yeah, because
they would have fit more in like the Star Wars kind of bracket as far as having younger actors.
Yeah.
In a movie like that.
It's funny watching this movie again and knowing a lot more of these actors. Like the only person that I realized actually that I hadn't really seen in another movie was Yaphet Kotto, but I've seen him in other stuff since then. So like it's interesting that he actually, this is one of the first movies that had a black man in a lead heroic role, like in a major film, and so I thought that was pretty cool. Even though technically. Okay, so this movie was actually going to be shot for $4 million, and then Ridley Scott storyboarded the entire film and showed it to the executives, and then they doubled it to, or almost tripled it to $11 million for the budget. So then they were able to pull off this different stuff. But the movie is actually, it's a dang good looking movie, but it's a really, there's not a lot of places that they go, and they get away with that really well.
Right. Well, everything you see is so beautiful and intriguing. I did notice when I was reading some info on it, I noticed that originally this film almost, because no one wanted to pick up this movie, and it almost got picked up by Roger Corman.
Oh, yeah.
Is, renowned for his schlocky...
Yeah, B movies.
B movies. And so this could have just been another, 99-cent bargain bin B movie.
Right.
And not the epic, I don't know if epic's the right word, but just masterpiece that it is.
Right.
So far removed from Roger Corman, and there was just nothing else like it. And I was really surprised how well this movie holds up, honestly, for a majority of it.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thing. Experience-wise, for me personally, I don't feel like it really held up for me. But the look of it and the lore that they put into this, like everything in this looks awesome. I love, of course, the way that the alien looks. I love all the alien stuff, the space jockey in there. I love how all of the retro future type of space trucker stuff in the station looks with the Nostromo. I think that's just, it's really cool looking because unfortunately in the 80s they kind of jumped ahead and they got a better idea of what the future looks like. So they kind of went away from that because like when he's sitting in the room talking to Mother, it's like an HP Packard. I'm like,
oh, I know that.
Computer.
Yeah, not everything in it. Obviously, the computer is incredibly outdated. Like they had no idea you wouldn't need an entire room to house the computer.
Right. It's still fun though. Like for me, like
it is.
It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't detract. It actually, to me, that actually makes the movie more special because it's. I mean, Star Trek had it right, but that was like people thought that was going to be crazy when Star Trek did it, and so like this movie, they were trying to do it as serious as possible, and it worked.
Right.
But
I mean, you could almost look at it as an alternate Earth type of situation, and their tech didn't evolve in some ways it did evolve, and in some ways it didn't.
Right.
Is one way you could look at it because they definitely made it look like they'd been around for a while doing this type of thing.
Right.
I forget the timeline was it jumps around a lot. I think they have it set in the canon of like 2150 or something like that. Okay,
so it's technically, I think it's 2122 because they never say anything like that in the movie. A lot of the lore of the Alien franchise comes from the later films. Like they don't say xenomorph, they don't say face huggers or chest busters or anything like that. All of this stuff comes from like the second movie and on. The only thing this movie introduced was like how people get infected and then the alien morphs, and you don't even see the alien fully in this movie, which actually I gotta applaud the makers of this film for the second movie, Aliens, just completely going full out action, not hiding as much stuff, not trying to do a repeat of the first one. They completely go
right.
I mean, they don't go completely different, but it's still. Well, we should review the second one because the second was just so different than the first one.
It is. Well, to me, they're apples and oranges, but I don't know. This one really develops the fear of what this creature is, and then so when you kind of apply that to just the balls out action movie that the second one is, it's perfect. It kind of laid the groundwork for it, and then you know why people are terrified and scared of it, but you don't have to spent a lot of time developing that. Like, you don't need to make another horror movie of it, I guess.
Right. It changed up the formula for sure.
It did. I love. They're great. I love both movies. They're just so different. Getting ahead of myself because you know what we forgot to do.
Oh yeah. What do you know? Hey Josh, where's the first time you saw this movie?
Well, let me tell you.
This is not a gimmick. We literally forget this every time.
I know. I swear, like only like twice. I think we've done it the way we put it in the notes. I remember watching this for the first time. I think when I was 13, and
really, that's you were freaking young. Wow.
Right. Well, for some reason I was home by myself, so all y'all were out doing an errand or something. Mm-hmm. So I was home by myself, and I had just put on. I don't even know what channel it was on, but it kicked on. I guess it's been fairly near the beginning, but I remember watching the sequence where they're exploring the ship, and just it's so intense. And I remember being kind of freaked out by that, and then the egg explodes on him. Right. And then they get back to the ship, and I remember watching it all the way through the chest buster part, and just absolutely terrifying me. Right. And then I don't remember finishing the movie, but I'm sure I watched it a little bit further. But yeah, I was pretty scared for sure. And then to this day, though, that whole sequence is still my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, it's mine too.
I don't know. I mean. Part of it's the nostalgic part of I just vividly remember watching it and just being so like I'd never seen anything like this before, and did not watch scary things at all. Mom and Dad would not have let me watch that movie. It was definitely they're not home. Let's see what's on TV. Ooh,
oh yeah,
kind of situation. Right.
That's funny.
How about you?
Mine was kind of similar to that. Like one of those tapes was one of the tapes that my dad took away, and I slowly stole back.
Right.
Yeah, and finally watched that. I think I saw Aliens before I saw this movie.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not sure. I watched them all, like the first four movies, pretty fast. And I did. So I don't remember when, but anyways. I will say this though, the first time I saw this movie, I was on the edge of my seat. It was super tense, and I jumped like several times. Like this was super scary. Well, not scary, but it was intense. It was really intense when I saw it though. I was just like,
right.
And I loved it. I thought it was great. And then the second movie, I had brought it to a whole different level. But rewatching this movie this time though, knowing everything that was going to happen, it was fun to watch it again. But unfortunately, since I knew everything was going to happen, it didn't have the same effect on me. It wasn't as tense just because this movie is it's almost more of it's a horror movie, but it's definitely plays by strong suspense roles. It's like the original Halloween. Oh, yeah. The kills are set up for long suspense until it finally happens. There's not a bloody movie. They cut out actually a lot of the blood and gore that was going to be put in this movie.
Right. Yeah. Other than the chest buster scene. Almost all the kills are off screen, or you don't even see them happen at all, or it's just not a lot of blood. But right. There's a couple of really legit jump scares though, which I thought was cool. And even though you kind of know they're coming, you're just like, oh, yep, there it is.
Yeah. So I gotta. Yeah. You brought up a point I want to address real quick. That out of these movies, so all of the characters in it, and of course Ripley makes it and becomes the face of Alien for the first four movies. Most of the people die off screen, and it's kind of the only people that get really cool deaths is of course John Hurt with the chest buster. That's a legendary scene in cinema. Just people reference that a lot of people know what it is, even if they haven't seen the movie. And then the other thing is Kane. Wait, no, that's John Hurt's character, Ash, who's the great Ian Holm.
Yes.
From of course Lord of the Rings. He is so underrated. But
love him.
That threw me so hard the first time when he starts flipping out when he's trying to kill Sigourney Weaver, and then the guy Parker pushes him away and he starts wigging out, and I'm like, what is going on with him? And then when Parker hits him in the head and his head flops over, and you see all of the it's cool. I love the artwork style of just the way that the androids are, whether it's all like a milky substance and stuff. It's gross because
the guts are so different than any other
Yeah.
I don't know. Most Android type stuff you would see in other movies are just straight mechanical, and this has such an organic,
Right.
mechanical fusion going on, which is pretty cool. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's disgusting in a totally different way of blood and gore. You're just like, what is that? And then the part where,
Right.
you know, they put his head on the table, and then it's Ian Holm acting with, you know, he's sticking his head through the table, so he's acting.
Right.
That scene, I was watching him closely, and the way that he just keeps dribbling the goo out of his mouth while he's talking, and he doesn't blink, and he looks so stiff, like it's crazy. He does such a good job in that. Like
He does.
Yeah.
I mean, you like you said, you know, even with, I mean, yeah, you know, it's a low tech, easy way to, you know that the actor just has his head through the
Right.
table, but I don't know, man. It was I guess flawless is the word, but it's seamless. It worked really, really well to do that low tech kind of stuff. Same thing with the chestbuster scene where, John Hurt, right?
Yeah. John Hurt.
Is that's his head and arms, but the torso is what's fake.
Yeah.
And that's just, I don't know. That's just such a, I love seeing, I mean, we say this over and over and over. We love practical special effects.
Absolutely.
And you see something done like this from almost 40 years ago or over 40 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it's, it's awesome.
Dude.
It's definitely, you appreciate people, doing well at that skill.
Absolutely. And to this day, the alien design, the whole egg mythology, to this day, I have never seen anything in a movie that is so, for lack of a better word, so alien looking.
Yeah.
And it's so cool. It's like scary, but it's just awesome.
Have you looked at Giger? And I apologize, folks. We had a little bit of a debate before we started this recording. Is it Giger or Geiger?
Is it Giger or Geiger? So, yeah.
We heard something online and went with Giger. But anyways, have you seen his artwork that everything was based off of?
No, there's a documentary about it that I wanted to watch. And I was like, oh, as soon as we knew we were going to review this movie, I had planned on watching that because I know that his stuff is just freaking like crazy. But
yeah,
I didn't get a chance.
Just Google it. It's dark and disturbing, and I mean, very imaginative. But you're like, where does he get these ideas? I mean, it's pretty amazing. I mean, it almost doesn't seem like something that he did in the 60s and 70s. Actually, I don't even know if he did in the 60s. Might have been all in the 70s, but it seems modern, like something you would see today. So he was very I don't know if ahead of his time or just incredibly unique, to this day. So
I feel like it was more of a unique thing. I really have never seen anything. I love sci-fi movies and seeing like what people think up that's crazy and outside of the box, because I want to see something I've never seen in a sci-fi movie,
right.
And I feel like Alien brings it 100%. Like when I was a kid and I saw the what was that, Alien 3 video game on Super Nintendo. And then I didn't get a chance to play it, but then like some of my friends down the street, they actually had the little alien action figures, and I just thought they were so cool looking,
Right.
Which is funny. This is the first R-rated movie to make a toy line specifically designed for kids, and so
really,
yeah, because I totally remember that. Like, there's been other movies that have made action figures and stuff, but they're normally for collectibles. They're not for kids. They're
right.
Like The Thing has action figures now, but they're not for kids. They're for people that collect action figures. Right. But this one was legit.
This was before like Terminator and all that, even.
Yeah, 79. Terminator came out in like 84.
Well, I know when they came out. Oh, they had a toy line even back then.
They
that
had
early
toy line back then, because Terminator or Aliens came out in like, I want to say, was it 86? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense because James Cameron directed that. That was his next one after Terminator.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's pretty crazy, and it's funny because like I'm sure it sold well, but this movie obviously made a ton of money, and right. I think it makes sense though because there wasn't anything like it at the time. It was made really well, and the one scene where they show the engineer where the people dubbed him the space jockey. You see the big exoskeleton of him when they're in the alien spaceship, like that scene was almost shot to scale. They were trying, it was like 75% to scale, and then they had Ridley Scott's kids be in the actual outfits. Did you read that?
I did. That was super cool.
Yeah, and to make it bigger, and like that was the money shot that made the movie look bigger than that. And so the lore and the artwork is what makes this movie so special to me. And And the okay, so this is one thing also too that I thought was legit is the trailer for this movie. The trailer for this movie, 1979. To be honest, most old school trailers are not up to snuff with today's trailers. Like they're just
Right.
They're just. I mean, people know how to cut a trailer. I feel better than they used to, and it was a different audience, anyways. But 1979, you go back and you watch the trailer for this movie. There's no talking. There's sounds. There's scenes of the movie, and it looks so intense that if I had seen that when I was if I was around when that came out, no matter how old I was, I would have been like, I need to go see this movie. This movie looks freaking crazy.
Right. No, it's true. I can't get over how much this movie stands out compared to the movies of the time period. I mean, Star Wars obviously it's amazing, but it's in a way, I mean, it's got the dirty realism, which this movie has too, but then this movie just goes in such a different direction of really fleshing out, the mythos of
right.
the xenomorph, the alien, and this other culture. And I mean, the groundwork that this movie laid for the other movies going out 30 plus years is insane how solid it holds up. I mean, you watch Prometheus and you see the space jockey, more up close, and it's right there.
Right.
30 years later. I mean, it's like that same art design and how they put it together in 79, and it still holds up to translate, into a modern movie really, really well. Right.
The one thing, so I was like, when I was watching the beginning of this movie, when they find the egg room and stuff, and it made me want to go back and watch Prometheus again, because you're right, that they just, everything they have around there. And then I realized Prometheus has really got a terrible script, though, because a lot of the people in that movie do stupid things that just doesn't make sense. And the thing that I got to praise about Alien is none of the people, most of the people, there's a reason why they do what they do. And so
right.
Even like,
yeah, they're very true to their characters. Each person in there, and whether you like them or not, they seem very authentic.
Right. Parker's always like, just freeze Kane, like just freeze him. We don't know what's going on with it. And that makes sense, And then Sigourney Weaver's a strong character from the beginning. She's not like a wimpy character that then turns into the final girl. She's a strong character at the beginning. She like straight up is like, I'm not letting you bring that back on the ship. You got to do quarantine. Right. This is what we're supposed to do. And then it makes sense later why Ash lets it on, because that's his mainline directive. So,
right. And he's not even human. So he's 100% about following, the directive.
Right. And it's funny watching the movie, knowing he's an android the entire time. His mannerisms from the beginning are legit. Like when you see them waking up from the chronosleep or cryosleep, he's like super rigid looking, and everybody else looks natural. And then just the little things that he does, like nobody really talks to him, and he's just.
I know they keep asking, like, have you ever served with him before? And trying to figure out like what is going on with this guy.
Right. And so I just thought that was freaking legit.
Yeah. Well, I really was happy because I forgot that he was the android.
Oh, really?
I did. I don't even know how I forgot, but I just, as soon as he started dripping that like milky sweat when he starts to freak out, I'm like, wait a minute. And I started thinking about Michael Fassbender's character. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. So I guess it's been a while since I watched this because it's such an awesome part of the movie.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, just in case, we just got to point this out. My stupid program crashed about 10 minutes ago into this recording, so we had to go back and start over a little bit. And we totally, you're missing out on Jeremy losing his train of thought and blaming his terrible strawberryta. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's freaking gross, dude. Like, I was like, I don't have money for a case of beer, so I'm just going to get this $2 item. It tastes
tall
like,
boy,
dude, it tastes like $2 items. Yeah, I'm like, I'd freaking go for a Keystone now, and I hate Keystone.
So, anyways, it might seem a little disjointed here for a second, but that's what happened. Anyways, back to the trivia, back to the story.
Oh, one thing I really thought was funny is when they translated this movie into other languages, did you read that about what they called the movie?
No, I didn't see that.
So they called the alien Death. So like it would be like basically. So in Hebrew it was called the Eighth Passenger, and then in other places it was Death, the Eighth Passenger. And then as the movies got more popular, they put the alien name back into it. But for a long time, it was Death and then blah, blah, blah. And so that was the name of the movies and outside of America.
Huh.
Pretty funny.
That's not terrible in a way. I mean, it definitely, thinking about it now, kind of makes it sound like a Roger Corman movie. But
yeah, that's true.
It's kind of, accurate in its description.
Yeah, no, it actually is true. That's very true. This movie, though, also, it was cool because it really did have movie magic in the way it was put together. Just the way with the screenplay, the screen, and they brought the story. They brought Ridley Scott on, and then who was a nobody at the time, and then he put his spin on it. And then
I can't believe how opinionated he was. So many ideas that he brought to the table. He wasn't just someone they brought on to just, yell orders at people, but a lot of input compared to, what the writers and other people were already bringing to the table. Right.
And it was pretty cool. It was funny, too, because like Dan O'Banion, who was credited for writing the screenplay, who went on to direct Return of the Living Dead. And so he's kind of like got his own cult following for sure. But it's cool, though, just like him and Shusett, like trying to figure out how to check off all the marks. Like, how do we get the alien on the ship, And then, like, how come they don't just shoot the alien with a gun? And I thought that, like, the whole idea, another thing, too, is like the acid blood. Such a cool idea, because immediately you don't want to shoot it then because you don't know if it's going to eat through the hole and you're all going to die.
Right.
So that was just
very, very smart idea.
Yeah, I love that idea. And then the whole idea of getting it on the ship instead of an alien like sneaking on, of just implanting the embryo inside John Hurt and then him carrying it back on. Like, and then that was just such a cool idea, and that's such a classic scene. Oh,
I know. Definitely some solid sci-fi there.
All right, one more little trivia thing real quick before I stop hogging the mic. So, also, too, they didn't show there's no production pictures of the alien when this movie came out. So the only time you could actually see what the alien looked like, sort of, was going to see the movie. And I love the theatrical trailer, which is funny. That's literally a regular egg, like a chicken egg.
Right.
And even though everything else after that, the eggs don't look like the chicken egg, but that's such an iconic poster, though. Let's see.
I gotta say, talking about that, the ending within the ending, it's very satisfying. It was a very, you had that good feeling when you see her finally, you think, well, it happens twice, that false sense of okay, everything's gonna be all right, and then she realizes, no, he snuck on the ship.
Yes.
And then, so then you're back to being, this is so intense, oh my gosh. And then, then she does finally, get him, and then it's over. And yeah, especially after how tense it is getting to that point.
Right.
I don't know, I felt very satisfied.
I was too, especially both times watching it. And it was funny that Sigourney Weaver, she picked that song, You Are My Lucky Star, which works really well. Because at first I was like, why are you singing that? And I'm like, well, you're trying to calm yourself down because, like, you think you're about to die. And Ridley Scott was annoyed that she picked that song because it was like it cost a lot of money to get the rights for that song for them to have it in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was hilarious, dude. But anyways, the idea though of having this movie be slowly paced versus Star Wars, brilliant idea. It immediately sets it aside from Star Wars, because then they could go full out inside Aliens for like the action and all that stuff, and then it would go on in the future when you incorporated the Predator, all that stuff. Which, by the way, Ridley Scott said that the Blade Runner series is also in this universe, which is very interesting.
That is, but especially when you see the use of androids and the tech that's involved in this movie. From the human standpoint, it's spot on. Going with Blade Runner.
It totally makes sense why that would actually be in the same universe. Right. Oh, I also really want to say shout out to Jerry Goldsmith, which is funny. He did like a classic soundtrack to this movie, and Ridley Scott didn't like it. So he threw it out and asked him to redo it. And so he redid it, which is funny, though, that Jerry Goldsmith was annoyed at that, because he did the soundtrack to Planet of the Apes in 1969, which is another iconic sci-fi movie. Yeah. And
it's very intense, and
it's weird. It's more sound effects than symphony music in that. And so with this, I was watching the movie and I was paying attention, you either are hearing somebody's heartbeat or you're hearing the sound of the sun, which is that awesome like ASM type of sound almost. And so there's constantly sound in this movie, and you don't really get a symphony bit until I think the very end of the movie, pretty much, like when Ridley's like running for her life and stuff like that. I mean, you get the opening credits, but I just love how the opening credits makes you feel like space is super empty and you are isolated. And it sets that up really well.
It does. It gets you start feeling the tension of that and the, like you said, the isolation and not knowing what's going to happen. And for being, like, I don't even think it's fair to call this movie a slow burn, because when you think about seeing, sequence to sequence, I don't feel like it drags very much. I feel like it's interesting nonstop for the most part. In fact, the only time I really got bored watching this movie was right after the chest buster scene and they're just trying to track it. And I just kind of felt, I don't know, a little bored watching that part.
Right.
But otherwise, I feel like this movie is just, I don't know, I think the pacing on it is actually kind of brilliant, even though it is technically so much slower than, the fast cuts of Star Wars and whatnot.
Right. Which is kind of funny. They try to bring it back in Alien 3, but unfortunately, lightning doesn't strike twice. And which is really funny because that was David Fincher's like directorial debut, and he would go on to direct masterpiece after masterpiece. And the studio executives kind of totally kept pushing him to like make the next big one, and it just didn't quite work out as well. But anyways, I need to watch that movie again too.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to, because I think I've only seen bits and pieces of the third one.
Okay.
But I've seen at some point all the other ones, but now I really want to just I'm super excited to watch the second one and just go through the series, because I know a lot of the other ones get picked apart and whatnot, but just to kind of enjoy it for
what it is.
For what it is, the canon that is, Alien, and just see where it goes. And
I mean, every movie has a good part of it. I would excuse the Alien versus Predator movies.
Yeah, we won't go there. That's its own franchise, really.
Right. I mean, technically, it really is. It doesn't make sense. But anyways, Alien Resurrection though. What's a good thing about that? It's got Ron Perlman in it. Immediately makes it a little bit better. Right. So
already into it.
Right. Okay. Going back to this movie. Let's see here. We talked about. Oh yeah, the chestbuster scene was actually. So they had to shoot this scene twice. Apparently, people thought it was like shot once, but it's shot twice. But the first time, or the time when it blasted out, like the cast didn't know that the blood was going to spray all over them, and that was like real like animal like organs and stuff that was sprayed out. So the room smelled horrible. So when that happened, like their reaction was all genuine, because they're all like, like, and Sigourney Weaver said she thought John Hurt was like legitimately like something was going wrong with him. And I have to admit though, watching that scene, that's actually a very compelling scene. John Hurt did an excellent job. It's such a scary scene because you don't know what's going on.
You talk about when you start choking and
convulsing,
like seizing almost.
Yeah. Like they're holding him down so he can't react to like his chest. So he's just, yelling, and it's not overdone. John Hurt though, it's such a good job. I mean, he's an excellent actor. Yeah,
that part is so intense. And I vividly remember my 13-year-old self just, oh my gosh, what am I watching? Just, so intense.
Right? Hey, I forgot if we already talked about like, yeah, I think we talked about that. Never mind. I'm trying to remember what we talked about when we lost the recording and what what we're trying to recap. But yeah, let's see here.
Yeah, the editing of this might be a little choppy.
Might be not as good as the Alien movie for sure. Well, we're starting to run out of time here. We should probably go into our final edits. So, Josh, do you think it hit the mark when it first came out?
Absolutely. I think for the money it made with that budget, I think that's a slam dunk, solid A.
Yeah, I agree. Solid A. I would give this movie an A+, because it just blew it out of the water. And it became also too, like, this is one of the most highest, if not the highest, horror grossing series of all time. Let me phrase that. Horror movie grossing series of all time. Because like versus you got Friday the 13th, there's like 12 movies in that series compared to Alien, and Alien has made over $1.1 billion from their movies. Friday the 13th, I don't think has even cracked 600 million yet. And which one's more lucrative? It's hard to tell because Friday the 13th doesn't cost a lot of money to make those movies compared to the later Alien movies. But anyways,
True.
Yeah, Aliens just knocked it out of the park. So I give it an A+. I think that it's a landmark in sci-fi horror. I wouldn't say it's a landmark in movie making history, but in that genre, it's a landmark film for sure.
Yeah.
What about?
Well, I don't know though. It wasn't. The Library of Congress did accept it as one of those landmark movies though. It's in the top 100 of all time and like top 30 in some categories. So,
I don't know.
It's debatable, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of
it's
right there, somewhere in there. How relevant do you think it is today? What would you give it?
That's a good question.
I also was not sure.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Exactly.
I did not watch Alien Covenant. Did you see Alien Covenant?
I feel like I did, but maybe now I'm second guessing myself a little bit. I definitely know I saw Prometheus, and I remember waiting for the second one to come out.
Yeah, dude, I forgot his name. The comedian, I think it's Danny Masterson from like Pineapple Express and This Is the End. You know what I'm talking about? Like he was in that.
Danny McBride.
McBride, yeah. Anyways, Eastbound Down, yeah. But anyways, he's funny because he's a comedian, but I think he helped write Alien Covenant, and then he also helped write the new Halloween movie. So apparently, he's a pretty good writer, and he's a big horror fan. And
that's cool.
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna have to check out Alien Covenant, and Ridley Scott came back to direct that, so I was like, that's freaking cool. But anyways,
right.
What was I going with that? Is it still relevant? It's more relevant than Freddy Krueger, I'll say. So I'd give it I'll give it a B because it's still an ongoing series for sure, and it's an iconic creature. It's not like, I don't know, dude. That's how I'll give it a C+, honestly, because it's like is it relevant? Like it's an ongoing series, but it's not a runaway hit like it was in '79.
Sure. Yeah, I had landed on a B because when you look at its classic status, for sure, it's super iconic. Yeah, and then just seeing how it's led to this kind of enduring film series, and even including the spinoff into the spinoff / crossover with Predator. I think it's pretty relevant. So yeah, I'm with you. I wasn't sure if a C or a B somewhere in there, but I'm gonna land on a B for that one. Okay. How about personal enjoyment? How'd you like this one?
Personal enjoyment. That's okay. Would I watch this movie again right away? For me, this is personal enjoyment. I think I'm gonna give it a C, dude, for personal enjoyment. Okay. Realistically, I mean, like I said, I love the lore. I love where they took the series. I applaud it for what it did. Personal enjoyment, though, like it's a cool movie, but it's like it doesn't keep the effect of the first time I saw it. The first time I saw it, I was blown away. I was like scared. I jumped multiple times, and this time watching it, I knew what was happening, and there didn't feel like there was enough set pieces that were like classically like, oh, this is cool. I felt like there were several times where it just was going and waiting to get to the next one, which works if you haven't seen it before. So I give it a C. What about you?
I'm actually going to give it a B+.
Oh,
because I was very much kind of on that nostalgia train, which I can get that way with movies.
Oh, cool.
And just it really brought me back to being so fascinated with this movie and really scared by it. And I did not like horror movies back then. I really like horror movies now, especially, that 70s and 80s. And it's right there kind of in the sweet spot, transitioning between, that 70s style and going into the 80s. But I think because of that, the memories I have of that. And then I don't know, maybe all warm and fuzzy watching it this time. And the fact that I forgot about, Ash, the whole android sequence, that just made it a little bit more fun for me too. But yeah, no, I was surprised. Let me put it that way. I wasn't particularly super excited going into reviewing this one, and I was pleasantly surprised how much I enjoyed it. So I give it a B+. Cool. Would you consider it a midnight watch?
I'm gonna say a hard no on that one.
Fair enough.
Yeah, there's scenes that are iconic that I would watch the scenes, but as soon as the scene's over, I'd go to bed. What about you?
Right. Oh, again getting on that nostalgia train.
Oh.
Woo! Yeah, no, because of just being so sucked into that movie, I think if it were to come on, I would just kind of be, I don't know, it was a formative time in my life, I guess, and it just impacted me so much. And I didn't realize it until rewatching it. Like I would totally watch it again.
That's awesome.
Right now. So yeah, so I actually, and I didn't think I would, but yeah, I'm giving it a midnight watch.
That's cool.
A yes for me.
One thing I forgot to do was a shout out for Tom Skerritt. I actually really liked him as the captain and how soft spoken he was like the entire time. And that made him seem more realistic, I guess, because he's just like, okay, well, this isn't the first thing that I've ever dealt with. That's weird. The only time I feel like he really freaks out is when when Sigourney Weaver won't let him back on the ship because of quarantine. And of course, like right before he gets killed. But, and I just thought that was good.
He's that soft-spoken cowboy.
Yeah.
Kind of, which, I mean, that's just kind of who he is. I think are the types of roles he plays anyways. But,
I mean, but it works.
It does. No, I think the casting was brilliant. I really like that. Anyways.
Yes. Yeah, shout out to the whole cast. Excellent. Everybody was excellent in this movie. But yeah, that about wraps up today's episode. If you guys want to check out this movie, I rented it on Amazon Prime. I could not find it in a way that I could watch it for free. What about you?
Yeah, I rented it on Apple TV or whatever.
Nice. What'd you pay for it?
iTunes. $3.99.
Oh, okay, gosh. I was like, did I get ripped off? Did you save $1? Anyway. Special thanks to our sound producer, Jake Colvin. If you guys enjoyed this episode, we'd love it. We would love it if you shared it with your friends or family, upcoming Thanksgiving. Hey, I listened to this awesome podcast, the Midnight Watch Podcast. It's great. What's it about? Check it out. Click on it. Click on all the episodes. Anyways.
There you go. And when you're done clicking on all the episodes, please subscribe so you get all the fresh ones right when they drop.
All the fresh juice. No, I don't know what I'm saying. Dang you, Strawberita. Go ahead.
Please give us a 5-star rating. We'd love some positive reviews. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You name it, we're probably there. Please
except for
check us out on
YouTube.
social. Yeah, I know. We're working on that. We'll try to work on that over Christmas.
Next year.
Next year. Social media. Get us on Facebook.
And Instagram.
What's the other one? Instagram, thank you. Yes, Instagram. And if you want to email us, please get us at the Midnight Watch Podcast at gmail.com.
And Tinder. No, not Tinder. We're not. Anyways.
Our wives didn't hear that.
No. I'm choking on my own joke. All right, everybody, you have a fantastic week.
No more strawberritas for you, bro.
No more. Ban the strawberritas. You guys have a great week. And as always, keep up the watch.